Welcome, everybody. The person you see on my right is Mr. Daniel Barber, improvising, playing from the heart and spirit and soul. And today I welcome you to Change One Thing, Change Everything with Daniel here on the right. A friend of mine I met a couple of years ago, virtually through the symposium that you ran, and it's amazing thing that you did. I am so happy to be with you here live on the interwebs and to hear what you have to say and hear what you have to play. So welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. It's so great to be here with you. It's just a real treat, unexpected treat.
Like Easter candy.
Easter candy, that's right. It's just like I found some really good eggs.
we're a good egg. So,
so I've got something for you.
Oh, well, please bring it on.
So, do you know what a bunch of bunnies running away from you is?
No, I don't know.
You don't, as much as you've thought about it?
I've only thought about it here, so.
It's a receding hairline.
That's a dad joke. I should be telling that one.
Yeah.
Telling that one.
Yeah.
Wow. So
that's that for a start.
Hey, you got another one? Are you here
all
week?
No, I don't dare.
I don't dare. So for those of you who don't know you, I've been sharing your stuff here and there on LinkedIn. I am really into the music beyond the music, and I think that's what resonated with me. So would you mind telling the folks out there in now and then and wherever kind of a bit about who you are, why you're here, and what you want to do with music?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I have always been someone who has been interested in trying to, I think like most of us or a lot of us, I've always wanted to make a positive difference in the world. And I began my adult career in social work, and I did that for a while. And then I sort of saw the revolving door of kids that were coming to our treatment program and then going back out into their normal lives and coming back, and sort of saw that revolving door. And I got interested in larger social system stuff and became a quantitative statistician and a research methodologist, and did that for quite a few years. And then got into video production and did videos for nonprofits and told the stories of the cool stuff that's happening at the grassroots all the time that you never hear about. And then ended up getting into music about 24 years ago, coming back to music. And did a lot of performing, I was the band leader for a spiritual community in Asheville called Jubilee. And I had a wedding and events band for several years, 8 or 10 years, and did a lot of parties and got a lot of people dancing. I was one of the core people in the Asheville drum circle for many years. And so had a lot of experience leading rhythms for large groups of people and learning how to kind of navigate that. And a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I started helping adults get back to the piano. Sort of the original idea was because it was such a powerful thing in my life, is to help people to reconnect with music making at the piano in particular. And I've been diving in deeper, and the huge blessing of being able to sit at a piano and just play something that is true for you in the moment, and as a way of not only just kind of having some respite from the normal part of your day, but also to even come to it as a portal for catharsis and for insight and for kind of alchemical healing. So it can be a pretty powerful portal for transformation, and it's just a joy to get to do.
It sounds like that brings you a lot of joy, and it's so interesting that many people, myself included, have this core musicality. Not to say so much about myself, but many people have this core musicality that came to them early, and maybe traveled with them through a certain part of their life, and then through whatever reason, whatever complexities or realities happen,
Mm-hmm.
that separation happens,
Yeah.
and that you've gone through that, I've gone through that, and I believe that, I know from working with you, there's that power of integration, that integrating that love of music into what has kind of become a mechanistic world,
Mm-hmm.
that really opens space for wonder again, and this aliveness that when you come back to the piano, even if you're not a piano player, when you come back to music and release from from the mechanistic world, the world that brings you down, and can go back into that deep place,
Mm-hmm.
it is it it leaves me speechless. And I think that that's kind of part of the beauty of it, is that it's beyond speech and beyond words. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. This is one of the things that I love about talking with you, Ryan, is you're really good at articulating this experience. It is kind of a difficult experience to express because it really is sort of ultimately about stuff that's kind of nonverbal. It's a deeper level experience, and people like both of us who have had a lot of kind of formal training in music, and have a lot of this experience of it being about something that, yeah, it's beautiful, and yeah, it's beautiful, it's heartful, and yeah, it's wonderful, but it's also really uh, imposing isn't the word, intimidating. It's this thing that's supposed to be achieved and mastered and perfected before you can even consider yourself good.
Yeah, there's that bar to mastery that comes, and that's there's so much competition also that
Mm-hmm.
comes from, and even from a young age, and whether that's just the way that music education complex, or the structure has happened, is that you must learn, you might gotta learn the notes, and then, oh, now that you're there, we as our band or whatever, we need to compete with other bands, and you need to go up the chairs, and to a certain degree, that level of friendly competition is good.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, there's this, oh God, I don't want to be pressured anymore.
Yeah.
Music should not be about pushing and pressure at its core. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's I want to get better, and I'm dancing with my instructor, and there's this mentorship. I mean, there's tension there, creative tension. I get it. But to a certain, not everybody feels that way,
Mm-hmm.
and not everybody wants that out of a musical experience. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think democratizing that is one of the beautiful things of what you do, in the way that you teach piano to folks who have not played piano before. I think that's one of those wonderful, like, things that you do, and then allowing a pathway for those with a musical background, maybe dormant, to activate that.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Thanks for that. That's really well put. And as you were talking there, I was reminded about this idea. Like, how many people do you and I both know who have had a fair amount of training as children and then get away from it? And it's like, maybe it was life that took them, or maybe they sort of got to the point to where they'd had enough, and it's like, enough of this, I don't want this anymore, or it was just discouraging or whatever, but they ended up kind of getting away from it, and then they just never got back to it because it's like, oh hell no. you know
I don't want to live through that
I don't
again.
want to live through that again. And or I don't have time, or I'd love to learn the piano, but it just takes too much time. And we have all these beliefs about it that are based on a completely flawed premise about the whole endeavor.
And releasing that belief is part of the magic. I think that's that you don't you don't have to be a professional. It's not about professionalism. It's not about self-criticism, and it's those that piece of it. It's an easier path to release that self-criticism. I think, because,
Mhm.
oh, um, all right, well, I don't have to go public speaking. I don't have to, speak up in a meeting or whatever. Or there's just this one thing that if I release my attachment to playing scales, playing this song and playing, for Elise or whatever sonata, or for jazz, I'm playing Autumn Leaves. Oh my God, I remember learning Autumn Leaves the first time I played it. I'm like, it sounded like crap, but it you don't have to take that skill in towards performing with an instrument. It that you are the instrument. You may not, like I said this yesterday. I
Mhm.
think you dug it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't have a musical bone in my body. Well, your body is a musical bone.
Yeah, it's like
And
we are innately musical.
yeah,
It's like I think one of the things that I always a dream that I always had as I was a kid, aside from wanting to play like Chick Corea or Oscar Peterson or Herbie Hancock, it's like I just wanted to be able to go to a party where there was a piano and to be able to sit down and play something that was nice. And when I was a kid, I learned stuff like that, and I learned a lot of stuff. There was a lot of things that I could play when I was in a junior and senior in high school. I'd been playing for quite a few years at that point, but it was always this repertoire that has to be kept up. And I was like, how do you keep that up? I would notice that if I didn't play that for like a few months, 6 or 8 months or a year or something, if it had been, then I played it. Then when I played it, I didn't like the way it came across. It was like I kind of would screw it up, and I would feel like apologizing, and I would feel like, like I would feel bad because I hadn't lived up to my expectations, and whether it was to anybody else's or not. And I always thought, wow, I wish I could just have a relationship with the instrument that is not so fraught with potential disappointment
shame.
and shame and embarrassment and humiliation.
How
Who
how
wants that?
how opposite from the feeling of the joy of music
Yeah,
is that?
yeah.
And when think about, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I want to go into the presentation to kind of give us
Mm.
um, a, a trajectory here. But think about Bach. If you think all the way back to Bach, it was sacred music. It was all about, and that worshipful music. And I think even, of course, back into the early Baroque, and the sacred, the whole reason for playing music was to support liturgy, to support connected with spirit, to support uh, the human experience. And then
Mhm.
how how has that been lost? And
Right.
in many reasons, of course, we could talk about that. But again, this practice and what you do and the work that you do is, I think it is just that key that unlocks that place where shame can go away, and this loving spirit can come out. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it never ceases to amaze me how transformative this can be, because um, these assumptions that we have. One of the things that I have learned doing this work is that the assumptions that we have about all of this are things that are so much like fish not recognizing that it's in water. It's so much about who we experience, like what we experience. It's hard for us to even realize that some of these things are basically contexts and assumptions that we can actually release, like you were saying earlier, and let go of. And that's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
yeah, have a good time, and if that spark comes back and you want to practice more. I mean, one part of this the thing, and okay, so I said we go into the presentation, but 10 minutes a day, you
Hmm.
improvise at the piano, 10 minutes a day. And it's not, it doesn't have to be about playing scales or technique. It in it You can start with the meditation just to get into the groove, and then lay your hands on the keyboard 10 minutes, And it's this kind of new kind of meditation also that
Mm-hmm.
there's so much in this practice. There's almost too much to offer. And I think that's, I get speechless about it. So you have a presentation to share. You have a path to invite us into. Would you mind
Sure.
starting that journey here for us today?
Sure, happy to, Ryan. This is kind of a few minutes, 6 or 8 minutes or so of kind of the context that all of this comes from. And so let me get in here and open this up for you. Are you seeing that
I can see it.
crazy cosmos thing?
I see the crazy cosmos, and I put myself in the background. So now crazy cosmos is
All
on the
right,
screen completely.
front and center. The cosmos
Front
is
and
front and
center.
center.
As it always is.
So there's a pretty comprehensive framework that I've put together for this that incorporates kind of the micro and the macro and spiritual perspective and very practical piano perspective. So there's a lot that's going on with with this work. But what I thought I might do today, just to give you and your listeners a sense of this, is to just get into what this perspective is and why I do this stuff. So this initial module does, there's a tap root in all of the ways that I teach. There's kind of a root that we connect to that provides context, and then there's I'll come back here and there's a tap root and there's an application. There's a way that we take the perspective and the context that we derive from the root, from that tap root, and we find ways to apply it. And then we come up with a practice so that the thing that we learned is embedded in our physical experience, so that this all becomes an experiential learning process that's, you know, multi-level. It's mental, but it's also emotional and physical and somatic, so that it's a comprehensive learning experience. And so for starters, when this initial idea of that your perspective is unique and legit and essential, what that can help with is when we're feeling distracted and disconnected, you know, we can sort of start a day and we're kind of connected and feeling present, and then we go to work or something surprising happens and we get distracted, or we get kind of something happens on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or something, and we get kind of wrapped up in a conversation, and then all of a sudden we kind of get disconnected from ourselves. And it can help when you know, we find ourselves kind of locked into old beliefs and habits, struggling with brutal self-talk, overwhelmed with uncertainty. And sometimes it really gets to be a challenge. Is like, what is it really to be present in the moment? What is that experience really when the monkey mind isn't just completely taking over? How can I learn to listen more carefully? How can I learn to be really more present and really relate with what I'm hearing? And in my work, I'm always paying attention to the various insights and discoveries and ahas, and making notes of those things, because those things can be pretty powerful insights for not only how to be more musical at the piano, but in other areas of our life as well. So I have this idea of an essential skill that I think all, not only humans, but all life forms have to wrestle with. And what that essential skill is basically that we need to be able to learn how to navigate the unknown with mastery. That skill in itself is profoundly valuable. And when we don't do this well, we become victims of our circumstances and our past, and we fall prey to old habits and generational patterns and beliefs and strategies that were formed long before in another time. And we get confused and frustrated when things don't seem to flow very well. And if this continues unaddressed, it can lead to boredom, dissatisfaction, discouragement, and regret. And on the other hand, navigating the unknown skillfully plants you deeply in the blessings of living, and you resonate naturally with the gifts of love and grace, like that. So, for a moment, just invite you to consider the roots of reality. So, at root, we're faced with navigating our lot in life as best we can. And this quote here expresses something really deeply vital about that. Then, in our struggle for freedom and mastery and capacity and confidence in our world, truth is really the only weapon we possess. Because the closer we can be connected to real truth, then we can feel like our strategies for dealing with survival and getting things done in the way we'd like is has more likelihood of success if we're connected to actual truth. And so clearly we are at a unique moment in human history, and not for reasons that you might be thinking about right now. In only the last 100 years, we learned that as far as we know, in terms of the truth of our situation, reality consists of energy and matter trading places with each other probabilistically. Now, no matter how highly sophisticated our methods are, the future and reality and life is still unpredictable and persistently unknowable. So if you want to live well, the most essential skill you could possibly learn is to navigate this unknown masterfully. And when you start to apply this skill, we access parts of our brain that we don't usually tap, and possibilities show up that normally don't occur to us. We start having more moments of being pleasantly surprised and having experiences of synchronicity. So another angle on this, another part of this whole context, is that what makes you unique is not your name or your face shape or your history and memories, your emotions, or even how you think. The developmental biologist Bruce Lipton says that from the very cellular level, the thing that makes you truly unique is how you perceive the world. So how you perceive the environment directly is the only thing that actually makes you as a being in the universe unique from everything else in the universe. Everything else is learned, everything else is programmed in our brains, everything else is taken from somewhere else. But the way that you actually perceive the experience of life itself is completely unique to you. So we have quantum mechanics that suggest that uncertainty is a basic feature of reality. And then biology tells us that your perception of that reality is what makes you unique among all living things. So then how can you adapt and function and get all your various needs met for security and connection and fulfillment, knowing that each thing you know always leads to a whole bunch of other things you don't? And how can you share and benefit from your perspective and your unique and precious gifts so that you can make the difference that you most want to make? How do you go where you know you want to go when you know you don't know what you don't know? How do you go where you know you want to go when you know you don't know what you don't know?
Is that yours or I
I
have
actually came up with that. Isn't that fun?
that is
How do you
amazing. I
go
love
where
that.
you know you want to go when you know you don't know what you don't know? How do you go where you know you want to go when you know you don't know what you don't know?
That sounds like a tune on
That's
one
a
of your
tune.
future albums.
That's a tune that's on its way.
Yes.
And what does sound and the piano have to do with all this? Okay, so when the terrain is this weird, it helps to have a compass that keeps bringing us back to three foundational questions that can ground us as we go. Number one, what is happening now? These are three foundational questions that I posit every living being has to deal with on an ongoing basis. Number one, what's happening now? As soon as we're launched out into physicality, it's like we're looking around going, hey, what's going on here? What is this? What's happening now? What's going on? And number two is, who am I now? So who am I in the midst of all this ludicrousy? How do I fit into this? What is my place in all of this? And three, what do I do now? Do I run from that tiger? Do I chase that squirrel? Do I sign up for grad school? Do I marry this person? Do I go get a peanut and butter sandwich? We're just always having to make decisions about what do I do now? And then once we do something, then we've changed the external environment. So now we're back to what is happening now. And we address these questions in my approach with what I call the Holy Trinity of improv. And this helps us to focus and simplify so that we can be clear and resourceful and authentic regardless of the situation. So part one of the Holy Trinity addresses this question, what is happening now? And it suggests that we listen carefully. It's first, and we always come back to it. And like each of the other two, this is much easier said than done. Part two of the Holy Trinity addresses, who am I now? Who am I now? By feeling deeply. We pay attention to the body and emotions and psyche and spirit, and we notice whatever is presenting itself to our attention. And part three addresses that question, what do I do now, by playing it out. We draw from the vast array of options of how to express ourselves and decide what to play next. Do I play this note or this one? And we decide each moment and decide what to play. And then we listen again. So it's this ongoing cycle. And so this Holy Trinity is surprisingly powerful for helping you play more musically, because you're paying attention to the sounds, and you're being very present and conscious with what it is that you're wanting to hear, what it is that you're wanting to play, what you're wanting to try. And you don't need any prior piano or musical training or experience with this whatsoever. It's all about sound making. And when you start to apply this on the piano as a practice, then you learn to navigate this series of moments with more presence and more curiosity and more courage, because you know that each moment is yours to do with what you want. So I've done a lot of work with people over the years. Chloe is a teacher, a vocal improv coach and teacher that is beloved around the world. She's been doing amazing things with vocal improv for a long time. And I worked with her on the piano. And so she took this approach to the piano, and she found it refreshing, and it gave her confidence, and helped her to bring this approach to presence to the piano, which she found surprisingly transformative, which was really great. This is another client who came who had no experience at all, and very little experience on the piano. It was from time she was a little girl, and it was a very traumatic experience for her. So she had a lot of trauma to deal with around music and the piano, and she got to the point to where she really enjoyed playing and does it a lot, plays a lot. She met a new man magically, and they got married. They have a magical story, and Lisa's an incredible person. And so it's just the potential for what happens when you plug into your creativity, wherever it is, whether it's the piano or dancing or painting or whatever. When we plug into our creative source energy, then all kinds of amazing things can happen in our lives that can be really shockingly transformative, shockingly can shift things in ways that we could have never imagined. So I think I'll stop there. Well, actually, what I will do, I'll say just a little bit more about what sound has to do with all of this. One of the reasons that sound, I think, is a really important part of this. It's kind of the active ingredient. So when we're paying attention to the flow of energy that's running through you, and you express yourself through sound, you're plugging in underneath your monkey mind. You're connecting with yourself through direct experience, and in the midst of that lie the seeds of possibility. Hans Jenny is someone who studied sound in the in the 1800s, and he said that the more one studies these things, the more one realizes that sound is the creative principle, and it must be regarded as primordial. So when we use sound as a way to express ourselves, we're activating an energy that is pretty universally regarded as conceptual. Not conceptual. It conceives things. It creates things. That no single phenomenon or form has the power to originate things, but that sound does. That power to originate things is inherent in tone and in sound. So it's no accident that sound initiates creation and creation stories around the world. And God said, "In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was Brahman, with whom was the Word. In the center of the universe, she sang." So this first step is to listen to what's going on in your world. Pay attention to that. Keep coming back to listening. Listen to the sound, and then notice how that feels in your body, and then decide what to play next, and notice how that shifts things. So it's a kind of the thing where you can be feeling one way and sit down at the piano, and then 5 minutes later be having a completely different experience of yourself. So it's I hope that helps in terms of just giving you a context about what this is about. So I will stop there.
So a big yes. You're kind of preaching to the choir, maybe at this point. Me being here, this sense of this presence. I mean that the Holy Trinity of listening, feeling, playing, listening, feeling, playing. That cycle, that rhythm, and the more you do it, the looser it feels, the more you can pay attention. It is this other level of meditative practice and this self connection that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you are all of us are vibrations, right? This is a quantum physics again. And again, this is another bomb you drop into this practice. It's quantum physics and this knowledge of that the vibrational waves that exist within us can be accessed
Mm-hmm.
in so many different ways. And going back to this primordial root
Yeah.
of 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 vibration, it is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the question that comes to me, and one of the things is that it feels like this work could be for anybody, and I wonder, are there folks in here who just you say, this is not, you're not ready for it. I mean, is that something that you've ever? Because I can't imagine. There's no one I know who wouldn't um, be just in tune with this. But what do you say to that? Well, you know, who's it not for?
I think that's such a good question. And I don't know how to answer it, actually. I do think it could be helpful for anybody. And I don't know how to delineate that, in part because people do kind of have to be, I guess, ready for it. But I don't know what that means either. And I can say that there is a lot of resistance to this work, and I think that there's good reason for it. And
Well,
the more
can you say more about what are the kind of good reasons to say, this is, yeah, can you say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning more about that all the time myself, noticing my own resistance to it. And I
Hmm.
think that part of it is that it really is an invitation into the unknown. And
Mm.
and and so the probably like anything, there's an upside and a downside. The upside is that it opens possibilities.
Mm.
And so new ways of thinking, new ways of being become possible.
Mm.
And the world can be bigger than you had thought. And things that you had maybe always wanted to do become possible and become
Mm.
touchable and become accessible. And there are challenges that come along with those openings.
Mm.
Some things become decisions that before weren't decisions. There was some option that just was never an option, and now that becomes an option. And so now there's this responsibility to have
Oh,
to decide.
crap, what do I do with this now?
Right. Yeah. And so that can be pretty, I think the word really is just frightening. It can be frightening.
Yeah.
And, and, and so from that standpoint, I think I would probably say, yeah, it's not necessarily for everybody, because everybody may not really want to change.
Yeah.
And so if you're really satisfied with your life and there's no issue, you're at peace, you're rocking and rolling, and you love your life, and everything is great, and there's not really a hunger for something greater, and there's
Mm.
not really a hunger for more integration or more expansion, then this might not necessarily be for you. But what this can do, I think, is it can be much more powerful than therapy or a lot of the kinds of sort of self-help and personal development strategies that are out there these days, for a couple of reasons, 2 or 3 reasons actually. One reason is that it involves sound making.
Mhm.
Okay, so it,
Yeah.
just like what we said a few minutes ago, it involves sound making. So you're accessing a universally, profoundly catalyzing force. Like when I did that, it changed the room a little bit here, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just by doing that, it changes things. And so if I'm feeling crummy,
Wait. It changes one thing, it changes everything, right?
I mean, one of the things that it can change is this idea that I can't change.
Mm.
Like if I just sit down and I go, if I'm feeling crummy and I go, it's like, it doesn't take much, and you don't even have to be able to do that, to sit down and create some. You can just sit down and start playing something that's kind of like the way you'd like to feel.
And that's the 0 to 1. That's that infinite leap from, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna put my hands on this keyboard because I think it's gonna sound like trash."
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone can play that little blues riff, and you don't have to be able to play that blues riff to
Uh-huh.
get that kind of release, and that just listen. Just listen to what's there.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel into it,
Mm-hmm.
and let it happen in your hands, and with and also the teaching of the 12 keys with ease is part of the process that happens, that you don't have to say, oh, I'm just never going to learn anything, it's just going to sound like atonal stuff that I might like, or
Right.
but it's going to sound, there's a lower bar to entry towards 0 of, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of this thing over there,
Yeah.
to the one, that infinite leap into, ah, okay, all right, that wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's,
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's a big part of what makes this work possible. Is this thing that I came up with a few years ago that you mentioned, the 12 keys with ease. um, I had already started coaching people, and remind me to get to not remind me to finish the comment about the 2 or 3 things that make this work so profoundly helpful more than a lot of other self-help techniques, because there's sound is one aspect and there's a couple of others that I want to get back to. But the 12 keys with ease makes it possible to sit down even if you've never seen a piano before, and in an hour I can show you how to play in any key. So that just makes it easy to be able to engage the piano in a way that will be listenable.
For those of you out there who stopped playing piano at age 5, 6, 7, 8, or whatever, this is for you. You have that knowledge, and then you can get beyond it. So that's
Yeah.
that's magical, and that's
Yeah.
want to change.
Yeah, you can literally sit down after that particular session. You can literally sit down and know how to improvise in any of the 12 keys without worrying about sour notes. So, and that's a little technique that came to me about 9 years ago now. I had already started teaching adults on the piano. And this occurred to me one day when I was coming back from a meeting, and I was like, oh my God, I could show people how to play in any 12 keys using this particular idea in my head. And I was coming back from a business meeting, and, in business, it's always like, well, okay, well, how long would it take? It's like, right. It's like 7 pounds in 7 days, or, it's like, how long would it take? And so I thought 7 days, and it's like, oh, easy. And it's like, well, a day, and it's like, oh, easy. And I was like, what was the next unit? It's like, well, an hour. And I thought, oh my God, could I do this in an hour? And I had to kind of run it through my head to just like, oh, okay, I need to show them this and this and this and this. And it's like, oh my God, I could show people how to do this in an hour. And then it would just completely open up the keyboard to anybody. And it was really kind of shocking to me when I realized this. Was like, why haven't people been teaching the piano like this for the last 300 years?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a curiosity here. You put up a couple pictures of some of your clients. I would like you to rewind a little bit back into the first client you had with this approach, the living musically approach, and what was that conversation like? Because there had to have been an aha for you, as well as an aha for that client to say, "Oh, we're now in this conversation about transformation through music," and I'm really curious about how that happened for you, and what kind of how that conversation may happen with your next client who may happen to see this at some point in the future. What was that like?
Well, that's a cool question. A couple of my early, I don't know if it was my first clients, but a couple of my early clients, one was we were working purely with vocals. Another one we were working with just the drum, just a djembe drum, and another client was on piano. So those are the 3 people that I'm thinking about. And in each case, I was very focused on how you could use this creative sound making, as a way to plug into deeper self-awareness. It's like, what's really true now? How can I play something that is expressive of the essence of what it is that I'm feeling right now, and how can that help energy move inside of my system? How can that help me shift my orientation to whatever situation I'm meditating about or struggling with? And in each of those cases, whether it was voice or drums or piano, it helped people to, it's like it sort of gets us beyond, and I think in all those 3 cases, it helped to get them beyond thinking of playing the right notes, and thinking more in terms of, okay, well, what would the sound be of this kind of mystical feeling I'm having right now? Like, what would be a sound that would kind of accurately represent this feeling I'm having? And then it it opens up this other dimension of meditation, because now I'm not thinking of it quite so much in terms of language and analysis and all that, but I'm just getting into the feeling and letting it be, and then seeing where it wants to go. And so it's kind of a deeper level of discernment, because you're noticing things that show up that you wouldn't even necessarily have words for.
Just got to sit with that for a moment. Wow. So that the first client experience, that's that dance around, what kind of transformation do you want? What kind of discernment do you make? And how do you move beyond that fear? So I'm trying to think of some way to describe I guess it's that when you get down. So there's a place in the practice where you have the dip, and that you lose hope, that there's this uncertainty. I think that maybe was what I was gonna go for. If you're in a place of fear and it's urgent and this kind of stuff, that no, maybe the piece that draws folks in is this: I want to know how to deal with uncertainty. I've tried self-help books. I think that's where we wanted to go too, is that what makes this different? I can read a book, I can go to some course and have somebody talk at me, or maybe sit in a group. Now there is also a group component to your work as well, which is one thing I was involved with too. But I'm not getting what I want to get from writing down an exercise or reading a book. There's something more. And I'd like you to say a bit more about that distinction between what you do and what the traditional self-help, oeuvre is about.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it is deeper than the verbal. And this is one of the things that I did want to get to. So thank you for the bringing me back. It's part of it is that you're in charge of your own process. And so you're the only one literally in the universe that can both pay attention to what's going on inside of you and apply the treatment that most wants to be applied in any given moment. And so you get to pay attention, and maybe you're doing this, and it feels like, yeah, this is true. This is kind of how I'm feeling. And then you play different notes, and it's like, is that it? Is that it? And it's like, well, no, it's really kind of more like that. And so you're making these really complex discernments about whether what you're playing is actually reflective of your truth, one. And then you're deciding what it is that you want to do next. So it's a deep dive into the present moment that only you could ever approach.
So this I think gets into the who's it for? Who can listen to this invitation that you have into, bringing that to the piano? Because you've told me that many times, Ryan. You're facing this thing. You're going all over the place. What would it do for you if you just brought it to the piano? Like, of course, yeah. And I have my piano locked in the closet for a long time because I didn't have space for it here in this new apartment, and it was sucking the life out of me, I think, because I wanted it there. And then when I brought it out, then some new things started happening. So, but that's me. I think I had this conversation recently too with, if you don't believe that there's this beautiful mystery of human consciousness inside of you, if you think that it's all just goo and cells and electricity, and that there is no such thing as consciousness, and consciousness and intelligence are these that it can be quantified. That there's this mechanistic Newtonian universe that everything can be explained, and that all we need is another device or another intervention with technology to say, oh, this is what consciousness is. And now we know. And so I don't need to play some goofy music or something, or meditate, buff, I'll just, if that's a belief set. And again, there are many checklists that you can get. There's a ton of books out there that give you the ABCD, and do this, do that. You can measure this. You can do OKRs with your life, or you can do any number of mechanistic, deterministic, complicated things that you can quantify. But this experience, it requires you to be open to the complete and total vastness of uncertainty.
Every moment.
Every moment. And just, well, what is the qualitative piece of that? That's the feeling. It's the listening. What am I hearing? Is it, oh, this is the sound wave of, this is A440, and this is that, and I've got the waveform. No, that allow these vibrations to come through the air, and they may be, Keith Jarrett, they may be, Joni Mitchell, or whomever, London Symphony, but let these things come into you and change you through this acceptance of a deeper truth. And you talked about truth in the presentation, that deeper truth can transform you into a more, again, for me, just me, a more complete human being, and that's who,
yeah.
And if you, and I think if you're digging what you're doing, if it's creating a sense of peace of mind and harmony in your life, and that's okay, and there's not a curiosity about that, there's more, there's real meaning, that there's something here in this world that I want to connect to. I feel lonely. The loneliness and meaninglessness of these epidemics that we hear talked about, and being addressed with mechanistic or medication or psychopharmacology, but that there are more simple and beautiful ways to heal. And I think that's a long way of saying that if you're open to healing through the natural world in this new way, I think that's, come here, please, come and join the course, join you in coaching and whatever offer you want to put out there. I think that's the special sauce. That's the secret sauce that will open that new way of seeing.
Thanks. I appreciate. Yeah, that was beautifully put. That's beautifully put. And the ways in which the alchemy of all these different sounds can intertwine and merge during the course of 10 minutes of playing, when you're struggling with some issue, like maybe you're in a conflict with someone that you love, or you're struggling about a life decision to make, or you've got some physical stuff that's going on and you're struggling with that, to be able to bring the energy of that and to be able to express it on the piano, both is a way to literally move that energy out of your body and into the room, right? Into the world. It's a literal way of getting it out of your body, literally. And also, you get to experience the sounds of what it's like when that energy is actually moving. And you get to notice what you feel drawn to do. You get to notice if there are certain options that you're weighing in your mind. You get to notice how some of those, like maybe one of those options really resonates when you hear it on the piano and the other option kind of doesn't. It's a fascinating alchemical process that can happen that's not you like you were saying, weighing, it's not like you analyzing things on a scale. You're exploring the different truths inside of you, and you're noticing which ones resonate. You're noticing which ones you want to resonate with more. It's just a deeper level of discerning, and a more, I think, faster and more deeply catalytic approach to deep healing, because you're just touching everything at more primordial levels.
Hmm. Oof. We are at 56 minutes of live living musically here. Is there anything that you want to have said in our space here today that you have not yet said?
I think I would just like to say, this is one of the things that I have not been good about expressing, it seems to me, is that it does seem to me, and I don't really kind of take credit for much of any of this, other than the fact that I kind of noticed it. I just happen to be someone who noticed this. But this practice is, I think, uniquely powerful for 2 or 3 reasons. One is, like I mentioned, it engages sound, and sound is just a powerful ally to have with you. The piano has so much variety possible. You can do, there's just so many different things that are possible on a piano that make for a really good sonic mirror, right? And the other aspect of it is that it really encourages and invites presence, real presence. And you get to notice your thoughts, and you get to notice stuff that's going on. And you get to recognize that this is actually super low stakes. Right? It's really low stakes. You're just making sounds on a piano. But that's not the way most people experience it. And so you get to notice that whatever is going on with relationship to the piano is going on up here. It's not out here. It's going on in here. And you get to notice that. And so you get to renegotiate your relationship with your thoughts and your judgments and your filters in a way that is an experiential learning process. And so through that experiential learning process, you get to decide, okay, well, if I hit a note that's unexpected, I get to hear it and go, okay, listen to that. How can I make that to be the perfect note to have played? And then that skill, when you learn it and experience it literally at the piano, becomes something that your brain now has in its toolbox for later when you're having a conversation with somebody. So you're literally building neural networks in your brain that you can access later in higher stakes situations, with your boss or something.
Yeah, and there is so this is part of it. This is this integration. This is this holistic view. There is neurobiology. There is science around how sound impacts people, and there are measurements that can be made and viewed. But there's this idea. Well, what do we do with that? And I think this is the also the approach, and what you brought through in the presentation. It connects this world of knowledge, of that way of knowing, that of the way you have a PhD, right? Or
I
you're
have
in
worked on
that.
a PhD. I'm
You've worked on a PhD.
ABCD.
Okay, ABCD. Well, I am not piled high and deep myself, but you've done academic work. You've done research in the social sciences, and so this, it's not as if this is, you walked off the beach and had some, ate a coconut and smoked something and this came to you, but there is real science and real research about this. I and hearing you talk about this and seeing what we're doing here today is that, first of all, you have to be willing to do this on a piano, on a keyboard of some kind. You have to have either access to one, or you have to be willing to purchase one, because Daniel's an awesome piano player, and this method, it really connects you to the 10 fingers on the piano, and that's very important to this. So if you don't want to mess with the piano or anything like that, hey, that's cool. Maybe my bass program will happen later in the future, something like that.
Yeah,
But
that'd be awesome.
so you gotta have piano. You have to believe that this is possible, that this transformation, that bringing this music into you and flowing out into the world, the somatic experience, that you see the value in that, and can believe in the possibility and want that to happen. So if that's you out there, whenever and wherever you are, Daniel is here for you. I am here to guide people to Daniel, and want to be in this work in many different ways. So it has been glorious to be here with you. I hope that we have a chance to do this again. And we have
I do too.
we have a link in the chat for. Actually, this is the private chat, so I'm going to put this out there in the chat on.
Yeah, I just thought
YouTube.
that there is a course that is open right now, and actually the enrollment for that closes this evening at midnight Eastern. So if you're curious about this, I just encourage you to you can schedule a call, and we can just get on a call, between now and midnight tonight, and we can talk about it. There's also a link that Start Here link will take you to a page that has a little bit of information and a couple of videos that you can watch of people who have done this work, and you can see what they have to say about it, and so you can research it a little bit. And if you'd like to explore it, then you can set up a call with me. And I think that Start Here page will also take you to the checkout page if you want to just go ahead and go for it. But that enrollment will end this evening, and we're going to start that class this week.
Great. Well, I'll put those in the chat here. Those will show up on YouTube. We will share those on Facebook as well, to get in touch with you, to capture the offer that you have currently. I do hope we get to do this again, and who knows what we may discuss in that other. Maybe I'll play a little bit. I don't know.
That'd be great.
I could go over my, if I can actually, the challenges that I have getting that darn synthesizer hooked up into.
I think you've got it figured out. I mean, we could also do a whole hour, I'm sure, on how music and music improv can be used in the business world to make businesses more harmonious and help people have a more enjoyable experience at the workplace.
It is what better way to collaborate more authentically and more deeply, and to co-create than and what group experience. This is and I think even today we really spent a lot of time talking about the individual work, but again, that group work is also, it's a whole other, opens a whole other set of possibilities again for just group work informally, and certainly where my consulting is kind of going is to do this kind of group work in organizations and for professionals. So
absolutely, so many possibilities.
Yeah, man. Well, you want to play us out?
Sure. Let's see here.
I'm going to let Daniel continue to play here. Keep going. I'll hear this. I'm going to put a screen up there, and watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and watch for us in another live stream, and certainly get in touch with Daniel today.
Thank you, Ryan.